Today, I'm collaborating with a special guest to give you 7 tips for developing a culture of learning in your organization. This is Productivity ACE. Let's get it done. So we've all experienced workplaces where people just don't get enough chances for self-improvement or skill sets are stale. Establishing a culture of learning from the top down is vital to keeping your teams motivated and ensuring really high performance and great team morale. Well, we've got 6 tips and a bonus tip for you to help drive that culture of learning at your organization. In this video, I'm delighted to be collaborating with one of the best leadership channels out there, and that's Leadership with Mike, all the way from Canada. Mike has got a ton of leadership experience at some of Canada's biggest airports, and he's here to drop some serious knowledge bombs on my channel. Here's Mike to tell you more and to start off our tips list. Mike, over to you.
Hey Paul, thanks for inviting me onto your channel. And everyone watching, my name is Mike, and I have a channel right here on YouTube called Leadership with Mike. And my goal is to help managers become leaders with no-nonsense sense, if that makes sense. A very important part of a leader's job is to create a culture of learning. And I think one of the most important steps starts at the very beginning, the interview process, or the onboarding process. This means that you need to discuss learning commitments. You want to ingrain the idea of constant learning right from the start. I believe that when you set high expectations of people, they usually try to meet them. But here's the other part. When you set low expectations, well, they usually end up meeting those too. So go ahead at the beginning of the hiring process and set that high expectation.
Thanks, Mike. And my first tip is called the golden hour. As managers, we always tell our teams that we'd like them to take off time for learning. We'd like them to take time for learning, for upskilling, and we always say we support it. But sometimes I've found that people actually feel guilty for taking the time out. That's just human nature. People feel guilty for taking the time out of their workload to concentrate on things for themselves. So I've implemented something I call a golden hour, where I ask my team to block out 1 or 2 hours in their calendar every single week. And this time is for them to stop working and start learning, continue learning. Any subject, just so long as they log it in our tracker and maybe present it to the rest of the team at a future team meeting. It's been a great initiative. It shows that I'm in business with my learning culture. It takes the guilt away from the team missing an hour of work, and it's led to loads of great ideas and projects. So get your team to book in that golden hour in their week and say, this is your time for learning. It's been a real success.
Another thing you want to have or create is meaningful training materials and programs. This is where you can show employees that they are part of something bigger. It's something bigger than themselves. You can outline the company goals and then share how the company goals will help that employee reach their own goals. Therefore, it becomes a win-win. With these trainings, you want to emphasize the idea of constant learning. Provide resources for your staff to use, borrow, or download. With trainings, it's best if all levels of the company take part. There's nothing worse than when you force the low man to get better, but those, a level or 2 up aren't learning anything. Training materials and programs should be for everyone. Lead by example and continue to learn yourself.
My next tip is don't worry if people leave. As a manager, I've heard it before from other leaders that they're actually apprehensive about implementing a culture of learning, getting people to really boost their skills. Why? Well, and I've heard it from people before, they're scared that people will skill themselves up to such a level and then leave, either out of choice or they might get poached. Well, my answer to that is what's worse. You train people up to be great and they leave, or you don't train them and they stay mediocre, but they stay with you. People leaving is a natural concern, but in order to commit to that culture of learning, then it's really important for a manager or leader to put that out of their minds and focus on getting those skill levels up, embedding self-learning into the culture of your organization. Sure, some people will leave and some people will game the system for their own benefit, but those will be few and far between. You'll feel the benefit across the organization and the wider population. So you're training for the wider population. Some will go, but don't let that stop your mission to produce a culture where self-learning is a key fundamental pillar.
I think one of the most impactful things you can do is encourage knowledge sharing. Now, you're going to have people on staff that are dying to share what they know and just really want to help people out. But then you're going to have those who really couldn't care less. They may think, it's not my responsibility to train staff. That's what management's for. I mean, obviously this isn't helpful. What can you do? Make sure that knowledge sharing is a priority. This may mean that you have to make people understand that some tasks are okay to be overlooked so long as there's a process of sharing knowledge. Make sure that this is okay and people know that this is okay. Perhaps you need to find a way to incentivize people. I know that the way I see it, if I can train you well enough, then I don't have to fix your mistakes and I don't need to be around to babysit. And I'm going to have less work to do because I've trained you as an equal. Personally, I have an extensive library of business books, self-development books, management books. This has always been available to the people that I've worked with for anyone to borrow. Make sure you always make yourself available to share information. And not just regarding work. If you have tricks that helped you get your baby to sleep and someone has a newborn, share that knowledge. If you work with younger people and they're not sure how to set up the company match program, sit and tell them how you made your investments and chose how you were going to do over the long term. This is how you help out. This is how you set the knowledge sharing. And the thing with knowledge, if I give you some knowledge or I share it with you, I don't have any less. You just get more. That's a cool idea.
And my next tip is gamification. Even with the best learning resources available, it's always a challenge to ensure that people make use of those expensive platforms that you've implemented and all of that expensive training systems that you've paid for. But you can't force people. So what else can you do? Well, one of the most effective ways to encourage the uptake of any training program, or actually the uptake of anything else for that matter, is to add a gamification factor to it. Gamification is the act of using gaming theory such as badges and achievements and points and skill ladders and things like that to encourage competition amongst a group. And it really works. People love a badge. People love to unlock the next level. People love to unlock an achievement. People love to be better than their colleagues. Even applying the basics of a gamification program can have a huge impact on people's uptake in learning platforms. And gamification can range from basic badges and achievements right through to full e-learning or skill belt programs that take months to complete. So as a leader, decide what might work in your organization. Maybe start with the basics and evolve from there. But what can't be questioned is the sheer effectiveness of gamification. It's a proven method for improving engagement in pretty much anything. That's why you see it around all over the place.
Paul, thank you very much for having me on your channel. If I do say so myself, you got a rather fantastic haircut. Anyway, I look forward to chatting with everybody in the comment section below. Make sure to help Paul out. Let's get him a like. Let's get him a subscribe. And if you're interested in joining me, I'll be Paul, I hope, in the links below. Leadership with Mike. Thanks.
I'd really like to thank Mike from Leadership with Mike for his collaboration and great insight in this topic. Do check out his fantastic channel. If you're a leadership or productivity enthusiast and want to collaborate sometime, just drop me a comment and we'll get it on. See you next time.